The diplomatic chamber aboard the Axoni vessel gleamed with polished metal surfaces. Ambassador Tejo of Earth stood tall, extending his hand toward Chief Minister Doko. The four-eyed alien stared at the human's hand with obvious confusion. "The humans appear physically weak," Doko whispered to Admiral Kayla beside him. His voice was low but clear enough for the nearby translator drones to capture. "Their respiratory system requires constant oxygen, their muscle density is unremarkable, and they have no natural defenses." Tejo kept his smile fixed in place despite understanding every word. His translation implant worked perfectly, too perfectly perhaps. He lowered his unshaken hand and bowed instead. "The Earth Confederation offers friendship to the Axoni people," said Tejo. "We believe our species can learn much from each other." Doko's upper eyes blinked. "Yes, learning. This is good. We have much to teach primitive species." Tejo felt his jaw tighten but maintained his diplomatic composure. Behind him, Security Officer Jiwoo shifted her weight slightly. She had warned him about this meeting. The initial scans of Axoni technology suggested they were at least a century ahead of human development in certain areas. Over the next 3 days, talks moved from cultural exchange to trade possibilities. The Axoni were particularly interested in Earth's outer colonies. Too interested, Tejo thought. On the 4th day, Doko presented a treaty document. "This gives us mining rights on your Proxima B settlement," explained Doko. "Your people will be compensated with Axoni protection and limited technology transfer." Tejo reviewed the terms carefully. The compensation was minimal. The technology offered was basic and the mining rights were extensive. "I'm afraid Earth cannot accept these terms," Tejo said finally. "Our colonies are sovereign territory. Perhaps we could discuss a joint venture instead?" The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. The Axoni delegation's skin darkened to a deep purple. "You refuse our generous offer?" Doko's voice dropped to a dangerous tone. "I suggest we revise the terms to be more balanced," Tejo explained. "Equal benefits for both parties." Doko stood abruptly. "There is no equality between us, human. You will learn this soon enough." The meeting ended there. The Earth delegation was escorted back to their ship with minimal courtesy. As they departed, Axoni Space Jiwoo approached Tejo on the bridge. "They're going to attack," she said simply. Tejo nodded. "I know. Send warning to all colonies. Proxima will need to evacuate." But the warning came too late. 6 days after the failed talks, a fleet of 17 Axoni warships appeared near Proxima B. The colony had minimal defenses, just 3 small patrol ships and a defensive grid designed more for asteroid deflection than warfare. Governor Suna of Proxima B received the Axoni transmission with growing dread. "This is Admiral Kayla of the Axoni Confederation. Your settlement has been deemed in violation of Axoni territorial interests. This disciplinary action will demonstrate the consequences of defiance." Suna immediately ordered evacuation of the 8,000 colonists. "Get everyone to the bunkers and emergency shelters," she commanded, "and power up whatever weapons we have." The Axoni expected a simple demonstration, a show of force, minimal resistance, and quick surrender. What they got was something else entirely. As their ships moved into position, the 3 human patrol vessels launched what appeared to be primitive missiles. The Axoni ignored them, focusing instead on the colony's main power grid. They never saw the specially designed EMP warheads until it was too late. 5 Axoni ships suddenly lost power, drifting helplessly in space. On the ground, colonists manned hastily repurposed mining lasers. These industrial tools, never designed for combat, were quickly modified by colony engineers to target the vulnerable sensor arrays on Axoni vessels. "They're adapting their mining equipment into weapons," an Axoni officer reported with disbelief. "How are they doing this so quickly?" 2 more Axoni ships fell to concentrated fire from these improvised defenses before they could adjust their shields. The battle lasted 14 hours. When it ended, the colony lay in ruins. Over 2,000 colonists had died and the settlement was lost. But the Axoni victory came at a shocking cost. Of their 17 advanced warships, 9 had been destroyed or disabled beyond repair. Back on their homeworld, Chief Minister Doko received the report from Admiral Kayla with growing concern. The humans fought effectively, Kayla admitted. Their ability to improvise and adapt is unlike anything we've encountered. Doko waved his hand dismissively. A statistical anomaly. Their resistance will crumble when we bring our full might to bear. Prepare the main fleet. We will show these humans their proper place in the galactic order. But even as he spoke, doubt crept into his mind. The humans had surprised them, and in Doko's long experience, species that could surprise once would likely do so again. 6 months passed since the Exoni attack on Proxima b. Deep in the dark space between stars, the Exoni cruiser Inevitable Victory patrolled quietly along a critical supply route. The ship's blue-white engines pushed it through the emptiness while its crew maintained the steady rhythm of a routine mission. Sensor Officer Minu sat at her station, eyes half closed with boredom. Her 4-fingered hands moved across the control panel, making small adjustments to the sensor array. Nothing interesting had happened for weeks. The humans had been quiet since losing their colony. Most Exoni believed they were licking their wounds, perhaps preparing to surrender formally to the Confederation. A small light blinked on Minu's console. She blinked back to full alertness. "Captain Jiru," she called. "I'm detecting an object at bearing 342.7. Captain Jiru moved from his command chair to stand behind her. His tall, lean form cast a shadow over her station. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen displayed a distant object, barely visible against the starfield. "Analysis?" Jiru asked. Minu ran the standard identification protocol. "The vessel appears to be human-made, Captain, but it matches nothing in our database. It's smaller than their usual ships." Jiru felt a surge of excitement. A lone human vessel, far from their territory? This could be his chance for glory. The High Command had ordered any human ships to be captured or destroyed on sight. "Helmsman, set pursuit course," Jiru commanded. "Weapons, prepare all systems. Communications, alert our escort vessels to form attack pattern Delta." The Inevitable Victory changed course, its 2 escort ships falling into formation behind it. The human vessel, now clearly visible on sensors, seemed to notice their approach and began to accelerate away. "They're running," Second Officer Toma observed with satisfaction. "As they should," replied Jiru. "Increase speed. Don't let them escape." The chase continued for nearly an hour. The human ship stayed just ahead of them, leading them deeper into an asteroid field. Jiru allowed this, confident in his superior numbers and technology. "Captain, their ship design is unusual," Minu said, studying her readings. "The hull appears to absorb our scanning beams rather than reflect them." "A primitive stealth attempt," Jiru dismissed. "They can't hide from Axani technology." Inside the asteroid field, the human ship suddenly slowed. For a moment, Jiru wondered if they had suffered a mechanical failure. Then the vessel turned, facing the 3 Axani ships directly. The name painted on its black hull became visible. HMS Nemesis. "They're powering weapons," Minu reported, then gasped as her console lit up with warnings. "Captain, these readings can't be correct. The energy signature is beyond anything in our records." Jiru leaned forward, suddenly uneasy. "All ships, raise shields to maximum. Prepare to—" He never finished the order. A brilliant blue-white beam lanced out from the Nemesis, cutting through space with terrifying precision. It struck the first escort ship directly, bypassing its shields entirely. The vessel didn't explode. It simply came apart, as if its molecular bonds had been severed all at once. "Impossible," whispered Toma. Before anyone could react, the second beam hit their remaining escort. This time the ship's power core overloaded, creating a blinding explosion that rocked the Inevitable Victory. "Evasive maneuvers," Jiru shouted. "Return fire with all weapons." But their weapons found no target. The Nemesis had vanished from their sensors only to reappear directly above them. "How did they move so quickly?" Minu cried. A third beam struck the Inevitable Victory's engine section, Lights flickered throughout the ship as systems failed in cascading sequence. "Emergency power," Jiru ordered, but the words seemed hollow, even to himself. In less than 2 minutes, an unknown human ship had destroyed 2 Axoni vessels and crippled his own. The communication system crackled to life. A calm human voice filled the bridge. "Axoni vessel, this is Captain Junho of HMS Nemesis. Your engines and weapons are disabled. Your shields are down. You will transmit all tactical data about your fleet movements to us immediately." Jiru stood, rigid with shock and fury. "We will never—" Another blast hit their ship, smaller this time but precisely targeted. The entire secondary command section went dark. "You misunderstand, Captain," the human voice continued. "This is not a negotiation. Your ship now belongs to us. Your choice is simple: cooperation or destruction." As emergency lights bathed the bridge in red glow, Jiru looked at the terrified faces of his crew. The humans they had dismissed as weak had somehow developed weapons that made Axoni defenses meaningless. "The hunter has become the hunted," Minu whispered, staring at the black ship that now loomed over them like death itself. Admiral Kayla stood before the Confederation Council, her normally confident posture now stiff with tension. On the large display behind her, images of destroyed Axoni ships floated in the vacuum of space. The council chamber was silent except for the soft hum of the ventilation system. "The human ship struck again," Kayla said, pointing to the newest images. "This makes 7 encounters in the past month. 22 ships lost, 17 damaged beyond repair, over 3,000 Axoni dead or missing." The 12 council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Chief Minister Doko's upper set of eyes narrowed while his lower set blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "How is this possible?" demanded Science Minister Hana, rising from her seat. "Show us the recordings again." Kayla nodded and activated the video sequence. The footage, captured from a surviving escort vessel, showed a sleek black ship appearing seemingly from nowhere. It fired weapons that cut through Axoni shields as if they weren't there. Then it vanished again, only to reappear at a different position. "Our intelligence has confirmed it is a human prototype stealth destroyer," explained Kayla. "They call it HMS Nemesis. Somehow they've developed technology that renders our sensors nearly useless until they choose to be seen." Hana shook her head in disbelief. "We've had interstellar flight for 3 centuries. The humans achieved it barely 50 years ago. This technological leap defies explanation." "Perhaps they had help," suggested another council member. "Could another species have provided this technology?" "We've considered that," said Kayla. "But all evidence suggests this is human-designed. They're evolving their warfare capabilities at an alarming rate." "What did the survivors report?" asked Doko, his voice barely controlled. Kayla touched her control pad, bringing up a new image. The human captain identifies himself as Junho. He takes prisoners, extracts information, then releases them with a message. "Go home and tell your leaders to leave Earth alone." Fear filled the chamber. What was supposed to be a simple disciplinary action against a primitive species had turned into something else entirely. That night, across 17 major Axoni worlds, parents struggled to answer their children's frightened questions. Stories of the ghost ship, as it was now called, had spread from military channels to civilian populations. In marketplaces and schools, people spoke in hushed tones about the human vessel that could appear anywhere, strike without warning, and vanish like smoke. On the colony world of Axon Prime, Port Administrator Taman watched his cargo ships sit, idle in their docks. Captains refused to leave the safety of the port. Crew members quit rather than risk meeting the Nemesis in deep space. "The shipping lanes are empty," Taman reported to his superiors. "Trade has dropped 60% in 2 weeks. If this continues, food shortages will begin soon." The Axoni military responded by increasing patrols and creating convoy systems, but their efforts seemed futile. The Nemesis would appear without warning, disable or destroy the escorting warships, then vanish again before reinforcements could arrive. Admiral Kala received reports from across Axoni space. Each one detailed another encounter, another defeat. They're hunting us, she realized with growing dread. And we can't stop them. On the 73rd day after the first appearance of the Nemesis, something new happened. The human ship struck 3 separate locations almost simultaneously. Impossible, said Kayla when the reports reached her. It must be a sensor malfunction. But the evidence was clear. Visual confirmation from surviving ships showed the same vessel, HMS Nemesis, attacking targets thousands of light minutes apart within the same hour. The truth dawned with terrible clarity. There was more than one ship. While the Axoni Confederation trembled, activity on Earth never stopped. In a heavily guarded shipyard orbiting Mars, Captain Junho walked alongside Captain Yoon, inspecting the newest vessel in Earth's growing fleet. HMS Judgment, said Yoon with pride, looking up at the black hull of the ship identical to the Nemesis. Third in the line, but first with the upgraded weapons system. Junho nodded approvingly. The Axoni still don't understand what they're facing. They think we're using some kind of advanced teleportation technology. Let them keep thinking that, replied Yoon. Fear works in our favor. Inside the Mars shipyard, 5 more ships neared completion. Each one incorporated lessons learned from previous encounters with Axoni vessels. Each one represented humanity's remarkable ability to adapt, improve, and overcome. On the bridge of HMS Nemesis, now rendezvousing with Earth's secret fleet, first, Officer Jiwoo, once the security officer who had accompanied Ambassador Taijo, studied tactical displays showing Axoni fleet movements. They're gathering their forces, she informed Junho as he returned to his command. Pulling ships from across their territory to form a massive fleet. Junho smiled slightly. They think numbers will save them. Will we engage such a large force? Asked Jiwoo. Junho looked at the tactical display where a single blinking light represented the gathered might of the Axoni Confederation. Yes, he said simply. It's time they learned exactly what they've awakened. High Commander Paku stood on the command bridge of the Axoni flagship Eternal Dominance. Around him, officers moved with purpose, checking systems and relaying orders to the massive fleet assembled outside. Through the viewports, Paku could see ships stretching into the distance. 114 warships, the largest gathering of Axoni military might in 3 generations. All ships report ready, High Commander, said Communications Officer Riku. His voice carried the careful tone of someone delivering good news to an increasingly unstable leader. Paku nodded, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Good. Very good. The past 3 months had been the most difficult of his long career. The human ship, this Nemesis, had torn through Axoni defenses as if they were made of paper. Trade was disrupted. Colonies were calling for protection. The Confederation Council was questioning his leadership. Today would change everything. The humans have 1 advanced vessel. Paku addressed his officers. We have overwhelming force. Today we reclaim our honor and teach these primitives their proper place. He had chosen this location carefully, a remote star system with no planets, just a sparse asteroid field. Their position was secret, known only to high-ranking officers. The fleet had arrived through different routes over 3 days to avoid detection. Begin battle drills, ordered Paku. I want every ship ready to— High Commander! Riku suddenly called out, his voice rising in pitch. Sensors detect— It's the human ship. It's approaching directly toward us. Paku froze. Impossible, our position was secret. On the tactical display, a single point of light moved steadily toward the center of the Axoni formation. Paku rushed to the screen, pushing a junior officer aside. They should be running, he muttered. No single ship would challenge an entire fleet. But the Nemesis accelerated, moving directly toward the flagship. All ships battle formation, Paku ordered, unable to keep the edge of panic from his voice. Prepare main weapons. Target that vessel the moment it comes in range. The great fleet began to move, shifting from standby positions into attack formations. But their movements, designed for fighting other large fleets, seemed slow and clumsy against the single approaching target. "They've sent a transmission," said Riku, "broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put it through," Paku ordered. A calm human voice filled the bridge. "Axoni Confederation vessels. This is Captain Junho of HMS Nemesis. You started this war. We're here to finish it." Science Officer Mindo leaned close to Paku. "Sir, there's something unusual about their approach vector. Their speed suggests they're on a collision course." "They wouldn't dare," Paku said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. The Nemesis continued its direct approach, showing no signs of slowing or changing course. At its current speed, it would impact the flagship in less than 10 minutes. "Open fire," Paku shouted. "All ships, all weapons." The space around the human vessel lit up as hundreds of energy weapons discharged simultaneously. The barrage was enough to destroy a small moon. But when the light faded, the Nemesis continued forward, seemingly untouched. "How?" gasped Mindo. "No shield technology could withstand that." The answer came seconds later as sensors detected a ripple in space behind the Nemesis. Then another. And another. "More ships," cried the sensor operator. "Human vessels decloaking all around us." One by one, black ships identical to the Nemesis appeared, their stealth fields dropping to reveal a force of 20 vessels that had moved undetected into the heart of the Axoni fleet. "Impossible," whispered Paku. "This can't be happening." The human ships attacked with precision. Each one targeted specific Axoni vessels, command ships, heavy cruisers, communication relays. Their weapons sliced through advanced shields and armor plating with terrifying ease. On the bridge of HMS Nemesis, Captain Junho sat calmly in his command chair. Beside him, First Officer Jiwoo directed the battle with quiet efficiency. "Fleet, carriers destroyed," she reported. "Communications disrupted, their command structure is breaking down." Junho nodded. "Status of our ships? Minor damage to Judgment and Retribution, all others intact. The Axoni weapons are having difficulty targeting our ablative coating." Junho leaned forward slightly. "Signal the fleet, execute final phase." The human ships began a new maneuver, moving in close to the Axoni vessels. Too close for the aliens' heavy weapons to track effectively. At this range, the humans' superior maneuverability became decisive. On the flagship, alarms blared as systems failed throughout the vessel. Fires broke out on multiple decks. The bridge shook with each new impact. "Hi, Commander," said Riku, his voice trembling. "The Nemesis is approaching. They're requesting your surrender." Paku stared at the view screen, watching as his grand fleet disintegrated around him. Ships were breaking formation, some fleeing, others drifting powerless in space. The carefully planned battle had turned into a massacre. "How did they know?" he asked, no one in particular. "How did they find us? How did they build so many ships so quickly?" The deck lurched beneath his feet as another hit struck the flagship. A support beam crashed down nearby, narrowly missing his officers. As smoke filled the bridge, Paku finally understood. The humans weren't just technically advanced. They were fundamentally different. They didn't think like the Axoni. They didn't fight like the Axoni. And that made them far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The Confederation Council chamber was filled with tension. Light from the 3 suns of the Axoni homeworld filtered through tall windows, casting long shadows across the floor. Every seat was taken. Many stood along the walls. No one spoke above a whisper. Admiral Kala approached the central platform with slow, measured steps. The weight of defeat showed in her posture. Behind her, a small team of officers carried datapads and recording devices. "The battle report is complete," she announced, her voice carrying to all corners of the silent room. 73 ships lost, including High Commander Paku's flagship. 38 ships damaged beyond repair. 19 escaped with moderate damage. Only 4 returned without significant harm. Chief Minister Doko, his skin pale with stress, leaned forward. "And High Commander Paku?" "Taken prisoner along with 14,000 other crew members. The humans treated their wounds and returned them to us 3 days ago." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Such mercy was unexpected. How? Demanded Doko. How could one ship— Not one ship, Kayla corrected him. 20 ships, all identical to the Nemesis, all with technology we cannot match. She activated the central display. Images of the black human vessels appeared along with technical data collected during the battle. We now understand that humans possess a unique quality we failed to recognize, Kayla explained. Unlike our species that develop technology through gradual evolution over centuries, humans innovate rapidly under pressure. Their brief history is a series of technological leaps born from conflict. Science Minister Hana stood up. The data suggests they built these ships in just 6 months. After our attack on their colony, they focused all their efforts on creating a response. And this response nearly destroyed our entire fleet, added Kayla. She displayed the message that had arrived from Earth after the battle, a peace proposal, with terms that recognized the Confederation and humanity as equals. If we refuse, Kayla said quietly, the humans have informed us they have completed 20 more vessels like the Nemesis. The council chamber erupted in voices. Some called for surrender, others for a desperate last stand. Doko raised his hands for silence. We have no choice, he said finally. We must accept their terms. 6 months later, the peace treaty was formally signed aboard a neutral space station. The station rotated slowly between the Axoni and human fleets, a symbolic middle ground between the two powers. Ambassador Taejo once again stood before Chief Minister Doko. This time, when he extended his hand, Doko clasped it firmly with all 4 of his own hands. The Axoni Confederation welcomes this new era of peace and cooperation with humanity, Doko said. The words broadcast across both fleets. Earth and her colonies look forward to a future where our peoples work together rather than against each other, replied Taejo. On the observation deck above the ceremony, Captain Junho stood with Captain Yoon of HMS Judgment. They watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. Do you think they'll honor the peace? Asked Yoon. Junho smiled slightly. They will. They've learned what happens when you underestimate humanity. And if they forget, then we'll remind them. After the ceremony, Junho was surprised when Admiral Kayla approached him in a quiet corridor. Captain, she said with a formal bow. I wish to speak with you privately. Junho returned the gesture. Of course, Admiral. I've studied the reports of all your attacks, your tactics, your technology. Kayla's 4 eyes focused intently on him. There's something I don't understand. What's that? The first Nemesis. When you attacked our ships initially, you had only 1 vessel, yet you engaged as if you had already won. Junho considered her question carefully. When High Commander Paku gathered your fleet, we had 12 ships, not 20. Kayla's eyes widened, slightly. You attacked with inferior numbers. We trusted in our technology and training, and in your overconfidence. A dangerous gamble. War is always a gamble, Admiral. But we had something you didn't. And what was that? The understanding that technology isn't just about what you build. It's about how quickly you can adapt when what you've built isn't enough. Kayla was silent for a moment, then she said, The treaty includes technology exchange provisions, limited ones. Yes, my people fear what your species might become with access to our scientific knowledge. Junho smiled. Perhaps you should instead consider what we might accomplish together. Back on Earth, construction continued on the new joint Axoni human space station. Engineers from both species worked side by side, each learning from the other. The design incorporated the best elements of both civilizations' technology. In his office overlooking the project, Ambassador Taejo reviewed reports of cultural exchange programs and joint scientific ventures. Where there had been war, now there was cautious cooperation. The Axoni were learning that humans made better allies than enemies, and throughout Axoni space, children no longer feared the ghost ship that hunted in the night. Instead, they looked to the stars with new curiosity about their human neighbors, the strange, fragile-looking species with no natural defenses, but the most powerful weapon of all, the ability to adapt.